As the opening text explains, after President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation and declared that slaves were free, approximately 35,000 slaves in rebellious states were left waiting for the Union Army to arrive and liberate them. However, they were faced with a choice: stay and wait for the army, or take the opportunity to escape to freedom on their own. In Louisiana during 1863, a slave named Peter is spending his final moments with his family, wife Dodienne, and children Betsy, Scipion, and Laurette, before he is scheduled to be moved to a plantation in Clinton. As he is being forcibly removed from his home, Peter resists and fights the handlers in an effort to return to his family. Unfortunately, the situation becomes more dangerous when one of the men points a gun at Dodienne, causing Peter to ultimately agree to go along with the other slaves. One of the handlers notes that Peter is an excellent blacksmith. Upon arriving in Clinton, Peter and the other slaves are put to work and subjected to endless abuse and discrimination. One slave, John, who had previously attempted to escape, is branded on his cheek as a punishment. At night, Peter expresses his faith in God, but John dismisses his belief, stating that there cannot be a God who would allow them to suffer in their current circumstances. While working, Peter overhears that Lincoln's army is located in Baton Rouge and that many slaves are running in that direction in search of freedom. Peter decides to devise a plan to escape by crossing through the swamps. As he is forced to bury the bodies of deceased slaves in a ditch, Peter waits for an opportunity to attack and kill the handlers. Along with several other slaves, he begins to run towards the swamp, pursued by a group led by Fassel. Tragically, one of the slaves, Thomas, is attacked by the handlers' hounds and is offered a deal by Fassel. If he reveals the destination of the other slaves, he will be allowed to go free. Despite Thomas revealing that they are headed to Baton Rouge, Fassel betrays him and shoots him before leaving his remains to be eaten by alligators in the swamp. As the pursuit for Peter continues, he decides to split off from the other slaves and make his own way towards freedom. While attempting to evade capture, Peter is spotted by a slave owner's young daughter and is chased by a group of men before retreating into the swamp. Peter fights off an alligator and tends to his wound while hiding in a tree. Fassel and his men, along with house slave Knowles, stop for the night and cook an alligator for dinner. During the meal, Fassel shares a disturbing story from his childhood about a female slave who used to take care of him and was friendly towards him. When Fassel asked his father to invite the slave to dinner, his father argued that giving anything to slaves would only lead to them believing they were entitled to more. Fassel revealed that he had been secretly giving food to the slave, and as punishment, his father stabbed the woman and left her to die in the fields over the course of 3 days. On another plantation, Dodienne is informed by the plantation owner, Captain Lyons, that she has been sold to a different owner and must marry another man, but she will not be allowed to take her children with her. In an attempt to prevent this from happening, Dodienne purposely injures herself by sticking her arm into a cotton machine, rendering herself unable to be sold. She then prepares her children for their inevitable separation. Meanwhile, Peter continues to do whatever he can to survive, including searching for food and water and trying to keep warm. To avoid being detected by the slave owner's dogs, he uses onions to mask his scent. He eventually encounters John and gives him some onions to do the same. When Fassel and his men close in on their location, John climbs a tree while Peter hides. However, Fassel shoots John out of the tree and then beheads him when he refuses to reveal Peter's whereabouts. Later, Peter comes across a burned-down house where a family has been brutally murdered. He finds a slave girl and tries to carry her to safety, but she is severely injured and ultimately dies after giving him a cross necklace. A slave handler appears and attempts to capture Peter, but he manages to shoot both the handler and Knowles, who had been supporting the slave owners. Before killing Knowles, Peter tells him that he is the worst kind of person for enabling the abuse of others. In the morning, Peter hears the cannons of Lincoln's army as he gets closer to Baton Rouge. However, Fassel catches up to him and tries to forcefully take him into custody. Fortunately, the Union soldiers arrive and shoot Fassel in the neck, killing him. They then bring Peter with them to their camp. At the camp, Peter receives medical attention and is told that he must enlist with the Union in order to secure his and his family's freedom. He is then taken to a tent, where photographers take pictures of his bare back, which is scarred from numerous lashings, so that the world can see the horrors of slavery. After joining the Union Army, Peter meets with General Dwight and Captain Andrew Caillou. When Dwight asks about Peter's motives for fighting, Peter explains that he wants to fight against those who abused him. The soldiers are then given the mission of infiltrating a Confederate camp and seizing their cannons. During the ensuing battle, many soldiers, including Cayux, are killed. However, Peter leads a charge that allows the Union soldiers to overpower the Confederate soldiers and take control of the camp. The native guard then marches through Peter's old plantation, where they witness the execution of Captain Lyons. The people on the plantation are declared free and celebrate their newfound freedom. Peter searches for his family and is eventually reunited with them in a tearful and joyful moment. They'd all pray together. The ending text mentions that the image of the man on whom Peter is based became a well-known symbol and cry against slavery. On June 19, 1865, more than 4 million enslaved African Americans were recognized as free.